Let's look at the baseline expectation for buying a car. For about $10,000, you can get a reliable, used commuter vehicle that gets you from point A to point B. But if we scale our budget up to the absolute ceiling of the market, the definition of what a car actually is begins to warp. Recently, a vintage 1963 Ferrari sold for a staggering $70 million at auction. At that price point, you have an object worth more than the combined net worth of the surrounding neighborhood, yet it is still legally allowed to be driven down a public highway at 60 miles per hour, alongside concrete barriers and distracted drivers. We have a deeply ingrained societal assumption about how spending works. We assume that scaling up the price tag of a car linearly scales up its quality and reliability as a piece of transportation. This chart shows the actual distribution of car prices on real-world roads. There is a massive cluster of vehicles under $50,000, yet there is a disproportionate amount of media attention given to cars over $250,000. The automotive market actually operates on an incredibly steep curve of diminishing returns. To understand where the math breaks down, we are going to map exactly what capital buys at 4 distinct automotive price thresholds, pinpointing the exact moment where functional utility peaks and drops off. The smartest automotive purchase requires identifying the specific dollar amount where your money stops buying actual mobility and starts buying vanity. Tier 1 is the pragmatic threshold, ranging from $15,000 to $50,000. A base $15,000 investment yields pure, reliable transportation with zero social prestige attached. When you scale that capital to the $45,000 mark, the equation shifts. You gain advanced electric vehicle efficiency and full self-driving technology. Full self-driving is an advanced driver assistance system that handles steering, acceleration, and braking automatically in specific environments. This specific price point represents the absolute mathematical peak of daily functional utility per dollar spent. Every dollar up to this line buys you measurable improvements in safety, efficiency, and commute quality. This matrix illustrates entering Tier 2, the status and creator threshold, spanning $100,000 to $150,000. As we fill the first 2 rows, notice the daily utility score flatlines, while the status score spikes aggressively. This is the territory of 6-figure luxury SUVs and entry-level sports cars. It is the aesthetic heavily favored by highly visible digital creators. The trade-offs at this tier are steep. You take on massive increases in fuel consumption, specialized maintenance schedules, and premium insurance rates, all for zero tangible gain in how efficiently you get to work. Contrast modern signaling with legacy status markers. A classic $100,000 Grand Tourer appeals to a more mature demographic, projecting established wealth rather than internet fame. Graduating from a $45,000 EV to a $130,000 luxury SUV does not upgrade your transportation. You are purely purchasing elevated road presence and social perception. At $250,000, we enter Tier 3, the divergence of supercars. Generalized, do-it-all vehicles vanish completely at this price point, forcing buyers to choose a singular extreme trait to prioritize. The first option is the aesthetic-first path. $250,000 secures maximum street-level attention and highly aggressive visual design. The immediate trade-off here is severe. You sacrifice subtle driving dynamics and baseline ride comfort for a vehicle that the public often dismisses as the default flashy sports car. Alternatively, the engineering-first path requires spending a $40,000 premium over the aesthetic choice, buying you raw, track-level precision. The final divergence is extreme bespoke comfort, pushing past $360,000 to achieve unparalleled interior isolation from the outside world. There is a brutal irony to this tier. You are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for sub-3-second acceleration capabilities that are entirely illegal to deploy on public roads. Tier 3 vehicles require you to intentionally compromise your baseline driving experience in exchange for either track supremacy or unparalleled public attention. Crossing the $1 million threshold introduces Tier 4, mechanical art. At this exact moment, the vehicle officially ends its life as a functional mode of transportation. In the modern hypercar market, ranging from $2 to $6 million, the engineering exists solely to break theoretical barriers, like the 300-mile-per-hour limit. We can see the pinnacle of this barrier-breaking engineering in hypercars priced between roughly $4 and $6 million. The physical reality of owning one creates massive liability. A simple scratch on the carbon fiber bodywork costs tens of thousands of dollars to repair, rendering the car too terrifying to actually drive in normal stop-and-go traffic. The ultimate extreme of the market strips away modern comforts entirely, with buyers spending $14 to $70 million on legacy racing cars. At this altitude, physical parts of the vehicle are largely irrelevant. Provenance, such as a vehicle being piloted by a cultural icon, exponentially multiplies its value. Provenance refers to the documented history of ownership and usage of a specific item, authenticating its historical significance. At this ultimate tier, you are no longer a driver. You are a curator managing an illiquid, highly fragile asset meant for a climate-controlled museum. This line graph maps out our master framework. The vertical axis represents functional utility, and the horizontal axis represents price. Watch how the line rises sharply, rounds off at $50,000, and goes completely flat horizontally into the millions. The return on investment for an automobile permanently flatlines the moment you cross 50 grand. From this curve, we can build a decision tree. For the pragmatic optimizer, the rule is simple. Cap your spending at $50,000 to capture 95% of all modern automotive technology. For the aesthetic buyer, if you are spending over $100,000, you must acknowledge you are purchasing a wearable accessory. You need to budget for the severe depreciation that inherently comes with status symbols. And for the performance purist and investor, you should only enter the multi-million-dollar space if you possess the external infrastructure, like private tracks and dedicated storage facilities, to support the asset. We often harbor the illusion that saving up for a more expensive tier will eventually buy a flawless daily driving experience. But the data proves that excessive capital eventually strips away the very utility it was meant to buy. The ultimate vehicle is never the one with the highest price tag. It is the one whose position on the value curve perfectly aligns with the specific objective of the capital you are deploying.